are gathered today here to discuss Ahmed Al-Kahky's MA thesis, and it is my pleasure to have with us on this viva as examiners Professor Rashwan, who is an old friend, not only in age but in terms of friendship, and she is one of the pillars of the Department of English at Shams University. Also, it is my pleasure to have Dr. Laila Galal, who is also one of the academic assets in Al-Alsun Ain Shams University. She is an asset to Ain Shams University as a whole. It is my pleasure to have them on the examining board, and it is also my pleasure to have supervised Ahmed Al-Kahky's thesis. He has been wonderful, patient, very thorough, and very sincere in his research. Now, allow me to call Ahmed Al-Kahky to read his abstract. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The United States of America, the melting pot of different ethnic and religious minorities, hosted an immigrant European Jewish minority that developed, like no other, into a very influential lobby of hyphenated Americans. In this case, the American Jews, who have a strong impact of its interior and foreign policies. Likewise, contemporary American fiction has been greatly influenced by the incidents of World War II and the dubious carnage of the Holocaust, which are the main factors of the coinage of the obnoxious term anti-Semitism and the adoption of themes that reflect the ideologies of the American Jewish writers. American Jewish fiction is very characteristic of its thematic development that coincides with the societal ascendancy and compromise of the American Jews. Early American Jewish writers like Saul Bellow and Bernard Malmuth draw on themes of ethnic persecution and social alienation, while recent American Jewish ones like Philip Roth deal with themes of the Jewish community's social compromise and heterodoxy. However, in spite of the thematic disparity of the American Jewish fiction, it is characterized by its exclusive interest in the presentation of the dilemmas of its American Jewish protagonists. This Jewish self-centeredness, however, results in the presentation of misogynist and misanthropic fiction that excludes the existence and voice of non-Jews and women. In fact, most of the American Jewish novels are stereotypically about stories of American Jewish male protagonists, which are told in their first-person voices or in the authorial omniscient voices of their Jewish male creators. In both cases, however, the Jewish male protagonist's sensibility and viewpoint become the center of interest. Consequently, the criterion of judging the Jewish protagonist's non-Jewish nemesis and peripheral female characters is his personal viewpoint that requires pious and misanthropic readership. The thesis studies misogyny in the fiction of the two American Jewish novelists, Saul Bellow and Philip Roth. In fact, misogyny is the symptom of the peculiar immanence of the Jewish self that excludes and ridicules the existence of the female other in its subjective narration. Women in the fiction of these writers are never given the chance to defend themselves against the Jewish men's degradation. Nevertheless, Saul Bellow's novels and those of Philip Roth are similarly void of any objective presentation of the male characters. Women are never fully delineated to be reasonably loved or hated. In other words, women are almost representational figures of the Jewish male protagonist's sexual desires and paranoid fears. Saul Bellow and Philip Roth are among America's most celebrated and prolific Jewish novelists. Saul Bellow won the Nobel Prize in 1976, and Philip Roth won a considerable number of prestigious awards in the United States. The two writers' fiction reflects the ideological disparity between two generations of American Jews. Soltero is among the few American Jewish writers who began writing fiction in the immediate aftermath of World War II. More specifically, his first novel, Dangling Man, was published in 1944. Therefore, the themes of victimization and anti-Semitism are central themes in that novel. Philip Roth, on the other hand, published his first book, Goodbye Columbus, in 1959, 15 years after the coinage of the term anti-Semitism and the end of World War II. So the themes of the social compromise of the Jewish community and their heterodoxy are its central themes. Yet in spite of the thematic and stylistic disparities between the two writers' fiction, there is a similarity of their presentation of misogynist environments dominated by the narcissistic interest of men. The Thesis traces misogyny in Soltero's novels, Dangling Man and The Victim, and Philip Roth's Goodbye Columbus and Portnoy's Complaint. Attention is given to the study of the relationships between the American Jewish protagonists and Jewish and non-Jewish female characters. The first chapter, therefore, deals with the American Jewish protagonist's relationship with the maternal figures in his life, like his mother-in-law, and his aunts. In fact, the central Jewish male characters in the fiction of the two writers hate and ridicule their mothers because they embody their unpleasant Jewish past and preserve their undesired Jewish heritage. The second chapter exposes the misogynist attitude of the American Jewish men towards Jewish and non-Jewish women. In most cases, the American Jewish protagonists in the fiction of the two writers subjugate their wives and mistresses because of their erroneous belief in their superiority to them. Jewish men in Soltero's novels are idle and entitled spouses whose wives support them. In Philip Roth's novels, Jewish men seek societal ascendancy and gratification of sexual perversion through their relationships with women. The Jewish men humiliate non-Jewish women to take vengeance on the non-Jewish American society. In most cases, women are distortedly presented in the fiction of Soltero and Philip Roth due to the fact that they are always the focus of the misogynist, masculine gaze. The third chapter studies the American Jewish men's libido dominancy, as well as their beguiling protein cells that enables them to subjugating women. Jewish men are never capable of having balanced relationships with women. Jewish men are almost stereotypically attracted to women whom they can dominate. Therefore, most of the female characters in the fiction of Soltero and Philip Roth are mentally and socially inferior to their Jewish male protagonists. Yet, when the female partner is superior to the Jewish man, he overrules her by disguising himself as a heartbroken lover, disapproving moralist, or a victimized humanist in the disguise of his protein self. The fourth chapter deals with self-centeredness in the fiction of Soltero and Philip Roth as a fictional characteristic that results in lack of objectivity in the presentation of their Jewish protagonists' dilemmas. In fact, the two writers' dependence on the lengthy monologues of their protagonists and their own omniscient narrations sets a distance between their reader and their fiction. The exclusive interest in the Jewish male protagonist's dilemmas results in the distortion of the image of his male and female non-Jewish nemesis. The narrative construction in the fiction of Soltero and Philip Roth focuses the reader's attention and arouses their sympathy towards the masculine dilemmas and sensibility, eclipses the female voice, and ultimately creates within itself the narrative conditions of a misogynist collusion of men against women. Anyhow, self-centeredness is a symptom of the egoism of the Jewish self and a fictional characteristic of Jewish fiction in general. Moreover, the eminence of the Jewish sensibility is a common characteristic in American Jewish fiction and its counterpart Jewish fiction in Europe. This year's Nobel Prize for Literature is won by the Hungarian Jewish writer Einar Kertész, whose masterpiece novel, Thesis, deals with his own experience as a teenage Jew in the dubious concentration camps of Auschwitz. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for a very concise, precise abstract. And now I would like to call on Professor Laila Galal to start the viva and examine the candidates.
Thank you very much, Professor Nadia for inviting me to take part in this discussion. And thank you, Ahmed, for a good piece of research work. I enjoyed it. It's a new topic, and I did enjoy it. However, of course, there is always a however, and I have some questions. Could you please look at the introduction, page 4?
Yes.
Line 5 from the end of the page. Page 4, line 5 from the bottom of the page.
The first, yes.
The first chapter,
the first
read that.
Yeah, the first chapter deals with the Jewish male protagonist's relationship with his mother and mother-in-law. Usually, the Jewish male protagonist's mother or mother-in-law is the principal cause of his psychological and social problems.
Okay, thank you. Ahmed, could you please explain that? Why? Why would the mother and the mother-in-law be the root of all problems? You never really elaborated on that. Although in your thesis, I think in the preface you said it's going to be like a psychological analysis of that. So why? Why do you think the mother and the mother-in-law are the roots of the problem?
Well, the thesis, as its title suggests, revolves around the theme of misogyny and the fiction of Saul Pillow and Telegraph. And the fiction of these two writers is singularly characteristic of the exclusion of the female voice. One of the female partners, one of the female roles played by women is the role of the maternal figure, just like his mother or mother-in-law, or his aunt. These maternal figures are ridiculed all the time, or they play very minor roles. And when they are in the situation or in the incident, they are ridiculed because these maternal figures are the ones who preserve the Jewish heritage. And most of the Jewish male protagonists in the fiction of two writers seek to achieve societal ascendancy in the American society. So the maternal figure, with all what she embodies, is a burden. She's like a burden. And that's why in the novels of the two writers, they are given very ridiculous and very diabolic physiognomies. Sometimes the mother, just like in Joseph, the angry man, Saul Pillow, wrote this novel, and his protagonist, Joseph, his mother died when he was young, and she is present in the action in his dreams. Actually, they are not dreams, they are nightmares. And she is like a burden. And that's why these maternal figures are all the time ridiculed, or they are hated. And Portnoy's complaint, on the other hand, Philibrota's Portnoy's complaint, she is blamed for his psychological disorder, and she is blamed because she is the one who gave him all the troubles in his life. His psychological disorders, his misogyny, his hatred for the blacks, his hatred for the non-Jews. That's why the maternal figures, whether they are the mother or the mother-in-law, they are hated or ridiculed.
Okay, Ahmed, I'll keep my comment till my next comment is also about identity. If you look at page 6,
في موبايل شغال.
Okay, Ahmed, thank you for this comment, but let me go on before I ask you again to page 6, the first paragraph. It's actually line 4, line 3.
Line 3.
Yes, in fact.
In fact, the self-copy and paranoia that the male protagonists experience are resultant from their uncertainty about their Jewish identity, which is a fragile frame of past Jewish cultural heritage and practices enacted by the mother or mother-in-law.
Okay, so this is what you just told me, that the mother or mother-in-law represents this type of burden of a cultural Jewish heritage.
That's right.
Okay, so you said there's confusion of the Jewish identity. What is the source of the confusion here?
Again, there are resistance trial to achieve societal ascendancy in the American society. The mother or mother-in-law is always reminding him of his past Jewish culture and past Jewish heritage. And there is the element of Judaism, as a religion. One of the short stories written by Philip Roth, which is the conversion of the Jews, we find Utsi, the young hero, he looks at his mother while she is praying, and he thinks of her prayer as a sort of paganism or an occult kind of prayer. And that's why he doesn't believe in Judaism. He doesn't believe in her, in that Jewish culture or that Jewish heritage preserved by the mother. And that's why he ridicules her. That's why he hates her. And
so you wouldn't say that the tension is really the attempt of the Jewish hero or protagonist to sort of merge between the desire to achieve material success in the contemporary American culture and his loyalty to the Jewish tradition?
That's why that's the reason.
Because but they want to be loyal to the Jewish tradition, I think.
Of course, they cannot take themselves out of the Jewish tradition or the Jewish community because they belong to it. And without that Jewish ethnicity, they fail to achieve any kind of success in the American society. Of course, we know how politically America is influenced by that lobby of hyphenated Americans, the Jewish Americans, and how a Jew is not successful as he should be when he is separated from his Jewish community.
Exactly. So I think it's this tension between wanting to achieve material success and also preserving that Jewish identity.
That's it, yes.
By the way, when you say the hyphenated American, why do you say Jewish American? It's always American Jewish.
American Jewish, that's right.
Sorry, you say American Jewish. It's always Jewish American, really. I've never seen it American Jewish.
Afro-American.
That's right, because the societal ascendancy that they have achieved in the American society makes them proud of themselves as Americans, and the Jewish ethnicity comes as a second.
Really? But I've never seen it American Jewish. It's all within books, Jewish American. No, all within books, Jewish American. You have American Jewish here. So is that your own coinage, or have you seen it American Jewish?
No, I have seen it, of course, on the internet pages. And
really one, because in most books it's always Jewish American, like African American.
But the more contemporary use of the term here as American Jewish.
So probably the American, yes. So it's really more or less the American part that is crucial to that. This is very interesting. Thank you, Ahmed. Could you please look at page 10?
Yes.
The last quote, this is a description of Joseph's mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law, this is understated.
Yeah. Could you please read the first 2 lines of page 11, your comment on that?
Yes. Joseph's description of his mother-in-law in this manner is a spontaneous overflow of misogynist feelings.
Okay, let me just ask you here, how did you reach that conclusion?
Well,
why do you say that?
If you consider the quotation here, it's very interesting, very insightful of how misogynist the attitude that Joseph has towards his mother-in-law. Because what is interesting in this quotation is it shows you 2 sides of that misogyny. He hates her because of what she represents. Mentally. At the same time, he hates her because what she represents as a woman, physically. He thinks of her as a cautious woman because she makes up too much for her age. At the same time, he doesn't think that she is a woman capable of thinking, because she is only the representative of the material void he is against.
But don't you think that some of those descriptions are really objective? Is it typical of some women at the age of 50 to be coquettish?
Well, I'm going to say that this description is objective if we have another person's viewpoint of the woman, or we have the woman herself speaking of herself. Just like in drama. In drama we have persons who speak for themselves, and that's why we know what's inside them. But this person here is just like a description. She is a bitch. She is a bitch. She is a bitch of the material world of the United States. She is a bitch because she is not capable of thinking. She is a bitch because she is cocktish in the way she makes up. And that's why it is not objective. It is through Joseph.
The eyes of Joseph only.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Page 20, the quote, the first quote, the block quotation.
Yeah, whether?
Yeah, but please read that.
Whether it was possible that she should not have said it intentionally, that she should be blameless, whether her thoughts were as smooth as compass, as counter or blank dominoes, whether she was half guile and half innocent, or whether worketh through her malice, she herself knew nothing about.
Okay, what would you say about that quote? How objective would that quote be?
Well, it is not objective again, because this is the way he feels about his mother-in-law. She said something, she said, if you go to the first paragraph, line number 3, she says, my Iva's husband is here to lend a hand. He isn't working now. He's waiting for the army. So he has all the time in the world. This is a very normal thing to say about your son-in-law.
Exactly.
But he, from his own point of view, because he has reserved all this kind of hatred inside him, he takes it subjectively, and he thinks of her words as containing malice against him, while it is not. He is subjective again.
Yeah, but I thought somewhere else you said, you said, however, he wonders. Here he's trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, that maybe this comment is after all innocent, just a casual comment like you said.
Well,
doesn't that tell you anything about Joseph?
Well, if we say, however, Joseph tells the readers that he wonders. I didn't say that Joseph wonders. I said Joseph tells the readers that he wonders. This is what he wants us to think about his mother-in-law. This is the way he wants us to feel about her, that she is a woman who hates him for nothing.
So he more or less thinks that this was not an innocent remark.
No.
But,
that's why he wanted us to wonder with him. That's why he wanted us to feel with him. I didn't say that Joseph wonders. I said that he wants the readers to wonder.
Yeah, so you want to say that he also directs the reader's vision with him.
This is what Longfellow does in all his novels.
Yeah, that's in the first chapter. Okay, Ahmed, thank you. If you could please look at page 25.
Yes.
Actually, the first paragraph, when you talk about the Israeli girl.
Yeah, Naomi.
Yes, exactly. And my point is, you really never developed that idea of the Israeli girl, the relationship with him, and the visit to Israel. Apart maybe very quickly on page 83. If you look at page 83,
yes.
but I'll come to it later. You know, you just give one quote about his conclusion to that trip. So I was wondering, why didn't you develop that line of thought? Especially, when Israel has really become a very important part of many Jewish American works. I mean, they often engage Israel in the work, and they often think of it as like a spiritual core, like a safe haven. So I wonder, why didn't you develop that line of thought?
Yes, I have the answer. If you go right to the middle of the page, after the quotation, actually, Alexander Portnoy's complaint is about his apprehensive Jewishness that made him an important man in Israel. Naomi's indignation of Alexander is Alexander's bohemian behavior at the end of the novel sums up the Zionist message of Alexander's empty monologue. So this is one of the things that Philip Roth wanted us to know about their feelings towards the non-Jewish society. I mean, the American non-Jewish society. Yes, we live in the United States. We are half Americans. We have our own rights. But even if we go to Israel, we feel that the United States is our diaspora. It is a diaspora. That's why this is the Zionist message. Of course, this thesis here does not deal with Zionism.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I mean, somehow you mentioned it.
I mentioned
yeah.
it. Yes, but
and you mentioned fourth generation of a woman. So maybe this Naomi would be a different type of woman, because really here she taught him a lesson.
She taught him a lesson.
According to you.
Yet Naomi is his mother is doubled. I mean, she looks like his mother. She talks like him. She talks like him, and she is his mother indeed. And that's why when he meets her, the rudiments of sexual potency fails him, because she is his mother, incarnated again or reincarnated, and that's why he cannot make love to her. Yet what Naomi says to him, she asks him to go to America, where the diaspora, because she thinks of America as a country where Jews are not Jews. And this is very interesting. While the American Jewish people help the Israelis, provide them with money and donate things to them, the Israelis do not think of them at the same time, just like they think of the American people think of them. So it has to do with Zionism. It has to do all with Zionism, and this is what Philip wants us to know about Naomi. So again, if I'm going to study it, or if I were to study, I'm going to study it from the point that Naomi again is a representational figure of Zionism, and she is not a woman. She is not a round character. She is only a black character, because we know nothing about her but that she is a Zionist here.
Yeah, which is wonderful. I wish you could have added some of that stuff here. I mean, you would have really benefited from some development of this idea. Great. Okay, mentioning, the idea of Naomi being like the mother figure, on page 26, after the first quote, you mentioned Oedipus complex.
That's right.
But again, you never really developed that idea. I mean, I haven't seen it mentioned except only maybe one more time in passing.
Well, I think what the text itself tells more than what I was going to tell you about this complex. If you look at the paragraph here at the middle of the page, you can find him, and actually this is Hermon Lee, and she tells us about the way he thinks of his mother, and this is more than what I would tell you about it. So I did it in Basol, but again, what the text here elaborates more than what I was going to say.
Well, I don't quite agree, but I mean, you could have really linked it to Naomi, that is really good, and really sort of traced it in the novel in more than one instance, I think, because I mean, this is really the core of the psychological problem he has with the mother figure, which is not only with the mother, but also with Naomi, who is really more or less the double of his mother.
Sure.
So I think it's worthy of maybe development, some more development.
Yes.
Okay. Ahmed, this chapter was very good, chapter 1, but the end of the chapter was really very abrupt, page 28.
Yes.
I think you should think of adding like a conclusion to the chapter. I mean, when you look at it later on, you'll find that it really ends abruptly. Very suddenly.
I made a very concise conclusion right at the...
the last 2 lines.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know, but I said that, I mean, it was very abrupt, maybe. A little more of an elaborate conclusion might have.
Well, if you allow me.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. Well, if I was going to elaborate more, I want to tell you about the very limited existence of maternal figures, and there are